This is Dave.
This is Reese.
And this is Manic Joy, a podcast about
life,
love,
and uncertainty.
Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 4 of Manic Joy. Now, this is actually pretty surprising that I think we've made it this far, considering we knew this would be a podcast about life, love, and uncertainty. And if you're counting along with me, that's 1, 2, 3 episodes.
3.
And we're here at number 4, which we were pretty unclear as to what we were going to do after these first 3 episodes. But I think we pulled it together, and we decided to spend some time talking about high school. Next episode, we're going to talk about some college experiences. And then we're going to talk about some career experiences. Leaving, that would be a total of 9 episodes. Leaving one more episode for, we don't know yet. We're going to see what comes up. For farts, there it is.
There it is. I was told that it was disappointing that I didn't mention farts in the last podcast. So there's the farts for you.
You know, you have a fan base.
Yeah.
And they're counting on you for things.
Actually, I have a fart base.
That stinks. Anyway, yeah. I got you when you were drinking coffee. Sorry about that.
I just choked on the coffee.
So I'm gonna blow your mind here for a second, Reese. Are you ready?
I am ready to be blown.
So we're going back to high school, and are you ready? We started high school 31 years ago.
Disgusting.
That blows my mind.
That's just the other day I posted that that other song, "Hold On for One More Day," is 31 years old. Isn't that crazy?
So that would be 1989? Yeah.
Craziness.
So Reese and I both graduated high school at the same time. So we were in high school from 1989, unless there's some years you were held back that you're keeping from me.
Surprisingly, they wanted me out. I should have been held back.
So, yeah, I think as we'll discover through part of this conversation is the Marisa you know and love today was a much different person in high school, up to high school, and probably beyond until college time, really.
No, college I was still pretty shitty.
Well, this is what I'm saying, is that, but that's where it started to change for you a bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
So here's what I thought we'd do, just to kind of put us in the spirit of the time in which we were alive and in high school and having a good time. But 1989, you ready for this, Reese? Here we go. The highest grossing movies in 1989: Batman. That's the version by, what's his face? With Michael Keaton.
That was the best.
My boy Michael Keaton.
My
I love Michael
Keaton. I
Keaton.
loved it.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Also saw that in the movie theater and brought a disposable camera so that I can take pictures when River Phoenix showed up at the beginning. And that happened. And then someone yelled at me to stop using the flash.
Because the flash kind of ruins the whole... Did you get a picture out of that?
I
because
did.
That pretty much ruins
the
screen projector. Yeah. Okay, so there's a little bit of insight because you guys can't see this, but in front of Reese right now is this whole thing that I'm sure we're going to get into. There's like a diary, there are pictures, there are certificates of merit. This is going to be an amazing episode. So, Lethal Weapon 2 was another big movie in 1989, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Remember that?
That wasn't my favorite. I know that's a
I don't really... I know what it is, but I don't really remember what was going on.
But yeah, that wasn't my favorite.
But I'm okay with a little Rick Moranis.
Yeah.
The albums in 1989. Ready? Top albums here. Don't Be Cruel by Bobby Brown. Hangin' Tough, New Kids on the Block.
Yep.
Forever Your Girl, Paula Abdul. New Jersey, Bon Jovi. And one of my favorite albums, actually, of 1989, Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. That album is fantastic. That played a big role in my high school years there.
I had the Use Your Illusion.
Ooh, there you go.
With some Guns N' Roses on my diary here.
Yeah, here 1 and 2. I'm glad you included both of them.
I did 1 and 2, and I wrote it with numerals because I was wicked smart.
Yeah, wicked. All right, 1990. Top movies. Ghost.
Aw.
Pretty Woman. Home Alone. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
I was obsessed with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, obsessed.
I remember that movie happening.
Yeah.
I don't really remember the movie.
It was corny.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
Leah Thompson was in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was the reporter or whatever her name is. I forget what her name is.
No,
but
I just forgot it. But
I actually like the remake they did of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It was darker. It wasn't as corny as the original.
Yeah.
April.
Thank you. Nice job. Okay, so now the internet failed me a little bit during my research for this episode because it was inconsistent on how I was trying to do this in terms of like top movies and like top albums and things like that. So I had to go for 1990 and 1991, I had to go to the Grammy Awards just to give us a sense of what was going on.
Okay.
So in 1990, the album of the year was Back on the Block by Quincy Jones.
That doesn't help me.
Yep, that doesn't nothing for me.
No.
The best rock performance was Janie's Got a Gun by Aerosmith. Mm-hmm. The best metal performance was Stone Cold Crazy by Metallica. Best alternative was I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got by Sinead O'Connor. Oh, I like that album. That's a great album. I do. Best rap solo. Ready? Back in the days when rap was rap. Wow. I don't know what to say.
That was
there.
A very white thing to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You got that white.
Ready? Mama Said Knock You Out. LL Cool J.
Wow,
Yeah,
my man.
Now the best rap duo or group. You ready for it?
Salt and Pepper.
No. Summertime. DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
And
look at that.
I have that on a 45.
I remember. Well, speaking of a 45, I had a single.
Oh, remember Casingles?
Well, this is the wrong year because this is or is it? No, I do not want what I haven't got. It was where she did Nothing Compares to You. I had that on Casingle that I listened to all the time.
Say Casingle again.
Casingle.
Did you guys have in your mall? It's exactly what I just said.
Yes.
Your imitation of me is
spot on. It's uncanny, really.
Oh, boy. So did you have in your mall it would have been in like one of the record stores where like you go and you choose songs and then they put it on a tape for you?
I want to say yes.
Me and Ruthann, that was our favorite thing to do. I had so many of those. They were really expensive.
But I never did any of that. But yeah, yes, I believe that is true.
Yeah.
1991, top movies. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Great movie.
I saw that in Wildwood.
That was a big deal with that liquid.
That was huge. I saw that in Wildwood with my dad. It was raining and we saw that.
Ready for this one? Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. That was one of the top movies in 1991.
What's Kevin Costner?
Yes.
Poor Kevin Costner. Aww. But I did like it. I watched it several times.
Yeah, and it had that.
Everything I do.
There you go. There it is. Silence of the Lambs.
Ooh, I saw that
great
in the theater
movie.
Too. Yep,
yeah,
that was good.
And City Slickers, also a great movie.
Oh my God!
Which I think we need to put on the list of one to watch with the girls.
It might be a little dirty though.
I don't think it's that bad. But anyway, so now the Grammys. Ready? Album of the year in 1991. Unforgettable with Love, Natalie Cole.
Is that the one she did with her dad?
She did with her dad was passed.
Right?
But she did. It. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. Yeah. Best rock performance was, or hard rock performance was For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge by Van Halen.
Wow.
Which I think is funny because on the Grammys website for this album, they had a picture of Van Halen with David Lee Roth, but For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge was with Sammy Hagar. So that's a big faux pas.
That is a huge.
Me. I would be
huge. Although I liked both of them.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually one of the only bands that really had success with like two different lead singers, and then the third, or I don't know how many went through after that. Like that was enough already. But Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth, both really great frontmen in their own right, and different just feelings to the band, which was also pretty good.
But it was still great.
Yeah. Best metal album or performance was Metallica. With the Metallica. Best alternative, Out of Time, R.E.M. Great album there.
Used to love R.E.M.
Yep. Best rap solo. You ready? You Can't Touch This, MC Hammer. Best rap duo group, Back on the Block by Melly Mel, Ice-T, Big Daddy Kane,
Wow.
Cool Mo D,
Wow.
Quincy Jones, and Quincy D. III.
Wow. That's all the heavy hitters right
Yeah,
there.
right. There we go. All right, here we go. And senior year, folks. 1992. Top movies. Batman Returns.
Not so good. Whoa.
Not bad. Not bad.
You went high pitch
Very
on
high
that.
pitch there.
Really...
I wanted to call the animals over for this part of the show. Home Alone 2.
Also not so great.
No, Lost in New York was the name of that one.
Yep.
Lethal Weapon 3. Joe Pesci was in that one. I remember that being okay, right? Oh, right? Is that correct? Was he in that one? Or he was Joe Pesci? He wasn't in the second one, was he?
I didn't watch any of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, those were good. Those were pretty good.
I wasn't interested.
Albums: Rope in the Wind, Garth Brooks. Dangerous by Michael Jackson. I couldn't name a song off of that album, but
I think there's a couple on the Michael Jackson
yes,
that
there are, but I'm like, oh, these songs.
Right.
Nevermind, Nirvana. Mm-hmm. Some Gave All, Billy Ray Cyrus.
Right.
And I had to add a fifth because it's coming in at number 5 of the top albums for 1992.
Yes, Casey Kasem. What is it?
Achtung Baby.
Well, yeah.
U2.
Woo!
All right.
That changed my life.
So
that album.
This is what was going on in the world, or at least in movies and music, from 1989 to 1992, the formative years of Reese and Dave in high school. Yep. Reese, well, let's start with what type of high school did you go to? Because our experiences, I think, are a little bit different. Yeah. So tell us about that.
I went to St. Edmund's Catholic school. It was an all-girl Catholic high school. Mm-hmm. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, so it's interesting. Because were you very religious?
No. But my parents didn't want me to go to public school because they thought I would get in trouble. So they spent
You showed them. Yeah, you can get in trouble anywhere.
Yeah, I think they spent $6,000 a year to have me be at detention every day, which I think my mother was fine about because then I wasn't home causing problems.
Trouble there.
But I went to Catholic school for 12 years because I went from grammar school to high school. So, but that was a big leap because there were no boys. So that my parents thought that would be good. And it probably was good that there weren't boys there. That was one less distraction that I had. But it was fun. Yeah. I didn't mind it. I wouldn't change that.
So I did go to a public school.
Yep.
Inner city public school. Big class. My graduating class was really big, and we can talk more about that in a bit. But yeah, so completely different experience. Obviously a co-ed experience, not based on religion at all, any of that. So an interesting time. Well, so I guess that's probably a good question. Like, how did you feel about your high school experience?
I actually, looking back on it, I mean, it had some rough spots, but overall, I really liked high school. I actually enjoyed going to school every day because I got to hang out with my friends and be funny and, well, what I thought I was being funny. I probably was really annoying. But it was me just going to school and just having fun with my friends all the time. I can't tell you that I learned anything about Catholicism at all. The main points that I just remember them driving home was that you should not have sex before marriage because you're going to go to hell. Pretty much everything you did was going to land you in hell. And then, and I also remember they made us take typewriting class.
I used to love that.
Yes,
class,
they were very bent on making sure that we understood that we were all going to be secretaries. So, some of my favorite things about that class was getting there early and switching all the letters around on the typewriter because you could do that. You could just pluck them off and switch them.
I remember.
But there's a specific way that they're supposed to be so that you can remember it, so that you can, you know.
There's a layout to the keyboard.
Right, so that you can do it without looking. And I used to just rearrange them. My teacher hated me.
So something you said there is interesting because I remember I remember taking typing, and I loved that class. I don't remember ever being positioned as it's because you're going to be a secretary. Was that? But that's how it was positioned to you guys?
Yes, that we were going to have some sort of
interesting
office job.
Interesting. Funnily
we also
enough,
had home ec too. Did you have home ec?
Yes.
They wouldn't let me bake anything, but we used to make.
Yeah, I think we had something.
Shitty things that I never used. But those two things I remember were like kind of big. And then the last 2 years, the teacher for my religion class, there was only one nun for that class, and Sister Rosemary, and she did not like me at all. So I basically did not have religion class for like the last 2 years of high school. I'm smiling really big right now. It was great. Okay. What else?
For me, I enjoyed it. I had a good high school experience. I enjoyed it. I do think, it's interesting too, because I'm thinking of some of the things that happened, and I was in a situation where I had groups of friends in every class starting 1989. So my best friend, we'll talk about later, was class of 89. Some of my really good friends that we still connect with now, class of 89. I had friends from 90, I had friends from 91, and I had obviously friends within my actual class. But, which I guess looking at it now is...
Were you popular? You seemed like you would be...
I suppose.
Popular.
Like, I didn't really, look at it like I was popular. I don't know. I guess we'll ask the audience right in. Was I popular? I don't know. But
Eric LeMay is shaking his
head
no.
Yeah, absolutely not. But I had, I was friendly with lots of people.
Yeah, I was the same way. I went into the school with a bunch of my middle school friends, and we kind of all stayed friends throughout. There was a little blip sophomore year, and I'll talk about that. But in every class, I was friends with all of the groups, like all the groups of people. Yeah. The metalheads, the stoners, the dorks, the bullies. Like, I made friends with everybody. I just always, my thing was...
Same.
Just, keep it light, keep it funny. I used to crack jokes and do things and everybody was okay with me. There was sophomore year was the only time where I had some issues with people. And then I remember there being a trip on the bus going to, I think it was Washington, where some of the girls that were not bullies, but they were kind of the tough girls. And I'll talk about that later on. But that was the only time that I had interactions that weren't pleasant. But other than that, yeah, I was friends with everybody, which was helpful.
So would you say that there were or was a teacher that had a major influence on you during high school?
Not a teacher, but I always talk about Sister Barbara. Everybody knows Sister Barbara. She was the best. I didn't have her as a teacher, but she was the dean, and I think later on she became vice principal or something, but she was the dean, and she was the absolute best. She, you did something wrong. She didn't guilt you, but she would have these ways of talking to you and giving you that talk where, I don't know what, she was magical. I don't know. She just had a way of, she wasn't your typical nun. All the other nuns there hated me. And she was the only one that really just was so good to me. I don't know what it was, but she was like that with everybody. So Sister Barbara, yeah, she kept me, I still got in trouble, but, not as bad as I probably could have been.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time in her office. She used to make me, so when I was supposed to be in religion class, either I'd be in her office, and then she used to have all these Smurfs on her desk, and I would hide them in the office. And then, and the next time I was in there, she's like, "Don't hide my Smurfs." And I went, "Okay." And then I would hide them. And then she moved me to the library because I couldn't be in her office anymore because I would hide the Smurfs. So she would make me go to the library and make me watch Ordinary People. That was my punishment. I must have seen that movie I don't know how many times. So every time I got in trouble, I'd have to go in the library and watch Ordinary People. I don't know why she made me watch that particular movie, but that's, that's what happened. And that's where, during one of my detentions, I found the Time magazine with U2 on it, and I took it. and I still have it.
There's going to be some fines and fees coming our way.
Oh, they don't know. The nuns don't read. Just
They're
kidding.
going to find out because they'll be listening.
All of the nuns.
So did you have anybody else, or was that
No,
Sister Barbara?
Sister Barbara was the best. She was my favorite.
So as I was thinking about this, I had 3 people that came to mind in terms of just influencing or having a major influence on me during my high school years. And number 1 on the top of that list was Kayla Febb. And Kayla Febb was a cheerleading coach. And I was a cheerleader. No, I wasn't a cheerleader.
I was like, wait 1 minute.
No, she was a cheerleading coach, but she was also the head of our marketing club called DECA back then, which stands for Distributive Education Clubs of America.
Oh, you're a dork.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was president of DECA.
Of course you were.
Yeah. But Kayla Febb was one of those just like a hoot to like be around, and you learned a lot from her, and she was just like a really great person, and we had a kick-ass cheerleading squad. I learned a lot in her class, and through Distributive Education Clubs of America, or DECA, there was a competition that you would have to, compete locally, and then you had a chance to compete nationally, and I actually made it to the nationals the year that I was, I guess, a senior, and so we traveled to California to compete at the national level, and we got to go to Disney World, Disneyland. Is in
that's when
California.
you went to Disneyland.
That's when I went to Disney, yeah. Which happened to be, if I'm not mistaken, also a time when the LA riots were happening, and so that whole thing was going down while we were in California, but we were in Anaheim, obviously. So that was somebody that was just a fantastic teacher and just a good person that brought out, I think, a lot in me, particularly in the realm of marketing. And it's funny, right? Like I'm in marketing today, right? Yep. And that's where I ended up. And so I that's always been something that I am grateful for, the relationship and the influence that she had over me. Number 2 was Mickey Schiavone, who was...
I feel like you're making these names.
I know, right? No,
these sound like fake
these
names.
are real. And I think, yes, I actually... So Mickey Schiavone was my wrestling coach, and was my wrestling coach for my freshman and sophomore year. Great coach. Really great coach. And one of those coaches, for me anyway, I am the type of person who likes to have those people that you try to do better for.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And he was one of those coaches. Like my freshman year, after wrestling season was over, the house we were living in, we had like an empty attic, and we had mattresses up in the attic, and I would train like off season, and we'd be up there wrestling, like the group of us, and doing all of this stuff. Like I just wanted to do good because it felt good if I was doing good for him. Right. So just like a great coach, and just taught me a lot just there about pushing through and doing what you got to do and that type of thing. The unfortunate piece of it is that he left after my sophomore year. We got some new coaches in who weren't great, and I ended up being captain of my wrestling team junior and senior year, but it was like I didn't have the same drive because it was like,
right.
Is
the third one named Bibbidi Bobbidi?
So it's funny. The third one is named Deeb Sarkis.
Oh, Deeb. I can't make fun of Deeb because I know Deeb.
You know Deeb. So Deeb was also one of our football coaches and one of our wrestling coaches, and cousins with our good friend Paul Sarkis, who we know, and he was just a great guy, kind of this like big muscle guy, and just had a way about him and the way he interacted with people, and just a great guy. Learned a lot from him, and I think is just, seeing him today, it's nice to see him, around and just a good person. So those were the 3 for me that just had influence over kind of how I was.
It's so great that your coaches were really good. None of my coaches were really... I played basketball, and my nickname was Over Here. Because I'd scream, over here, over here. No one would throw the ball. And then I was in cheerleading, and most of the time I would just hear, please don't do that. So I never had... And then I played volleyball junior, senior year, which I was pretty good at. But I can't remember anything my coaches did to everything was please don't do that, because I just would mess around. You know what I mean? And
sounds a lot like today.
Pretty much.
Please don't do that.
Just like a couple of minutes ago before we started the podcast with you. Please don't do that. So yeah, like that's great that you had that type of connection with coaches, because usually that's, you know, who you look to sometimes. Yeah,
really good. Question 1 that we have to really get us into it, that we prepared here today. So the first, you know, what were your top memories from high school?
I just remember laughing a lot. And so I had a couple of things here. You know, I mean, there was some moments that were really fun, like the lunchroom. Always had the best table. We'd always talk about 90210 like the next day.
90210.
Yep. And I was like BFFs with the lunch ladies, and they used to like hook me up, which is why I was a little overweight in high school. And then, you know, we used to decorate each other's lockers during birthdays, and that was always fun. But the top 3 moments that I guess memories that pop out are when we went to the ski trip. We had a ski trip. I think it was, you know, they all blended together. And I feel like it was probably like junior year maybe, or the beginning of sophomore year. I don't remember. But we went on a ski trip, which was the dumbest thing you could do with a bunch of ridiculous high school girls. And I remember like going there, and I put vodka in the water spray bottle. And nope, that's a lie. It wasn't vodka. I lied. It was like a brandy, like a disgusting brandy, because no one in the house drank it. So I put that in there. And then when we got to the room, we all drank it. And then we had to go downstairs and get fitted for the ski shoes, the ski boots. And everybody was bright red and hot and sweating because the brandy warmed us up. So we were like a little tipsy. So, and then my friend Denise got her foot
and the mixture
caught
with
in
the
boots.
Windex was a...
Yeah, no. And then that's the trip that I always talk about, my one and only skiing experience, where I try to go up the lift where you had to hold a rope and it pulls you up, and I didn't get off of the rope where I was supposed to, so it took me all the way to the top. And then I told the guy I want to take my skis off and walk down, and he's like, you can't do that. And I was like, well, I'm going to. And he's like, nope. And he like pushed me, and I barreled down, and I like bent over, which made me go faster. And then I fell smack like face to face into Michelle Bouvet, who the night before had injured her elbow when we went roller skating at a roller rink. So I knocked into her styrofoam cast. And then I was like, get these skis off of me. I'm done. And that was the end of that. And then we met some kid. I actually have that ski trip on VHS, which I plan one day to convert it to a DVD so we can watch the shenanigans on there. We made friends with this kid that looked like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and that was our big thing. Then there was the Washington trip. So on that trip on the bus, so at that point I was in love with Bon Jovi, like that was like the big band there.
You know, one of our Grammy or top albums.
That's right.
For
I'm sure that I was very excited about that at the time.
1989.
And
New Jersey.
Richie Sambora was like my favorite person.
Sure.
And he at the time was dating Cher, and I hated Cher. And anytime I'd hear If I Can Turn Back Time, I would flip out. And so we're on the bus, and the girls in the back of the bus, who were way stronger than me, and got into many fistfights. I never got into one. I would start it, but I would never finish it. But so they purposely kept playing If I Can Turn Back Time on purpose to like provoke me.
Of course.
So finally I got up and I was like, I'm going back there and saying something. And everybody's like, please don't. But I did. And then I was like, you guys, but I went in their face. I was like, you guys better stop playing Cher. I hate her. Blah, blah, blah. And then I turned away and I felt really good about myself. and then everybody that I was sitting with had this like look on their face. And when I turned around, one of the girls came over to me. I'm not going to mention names because I'm hoping they don't even remember this. And they're probably not going to listen to this podcast, but I'm friends with them now on Facebook. And they're actually very nice ladies who have families now. So she came up to my face and put her finger in my face. She's like, when this bus pulls over, I am taking you and I'm throwing you underneath the bus with the luggage. And I was like, oh. Something to that effect. It was like horrifying. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. So I was like, so she goes back and she sits and I was like, oh yeah. And then I got up and then I mooned her. And And then that's what they did. They laughed at it, and they thought that was really funny. So when we got off the bus, they were like, moon that bus of kids over there. So I did. So the whole Washington trip, I just mooned people. And so for the rest of that year, I got called Mooner. So that was fun. And then there was the prom. And then there was the prom, which I've talked about, which was just lovely. I went with Andrew, and we had the best time. And our table was fun, and everything was fun. And, you know, some people talk about how terrible their prom is, but I loved my prom. It was really good. Except for, like, before the prom when I was getting dressed, and then I lost this very special bra that I bought specifically that I had my mother get done. I had it made because I was so afraid that someone else would have the same dress. And because I was spoiled, Dave's shaking his head, yes. I did it. I looked like Maria Conchita Alonso from Kiss of the Spider-Woman. This dress was ridiculous. And so my cousin was doing my hair and putting on makeup, and I couldn't find the bra, and I was freaking out, and I was sweating, and she was getting mad at me, and I was like, but I can't find the bra. I don't know what to do. And then she smacked me in the face. Oh. And I stopped crying. Wow. But then I started crying because she smacked me in the face. Then I found that bra, like 3 years later, it had fallen behind the drawer I had like drawers under my bed, and it fell behind there. I don't know why I felt it necessary to add that part of the story. But those are the 3 memories I had. Just those trips were so much fun. Oh my God. Also I think it was it was the Washington trip.
All right. This is good. This is going to be something.
We were in our rooms, and I had connecting rooms with my friends, and all of a sudden we hear a knock on the door, and I opened the door, and I think it was my friend Karen, and I opened the door, and someone threw a pail, like the bucket for the ice, an ice bucket of water on her, and ran away. So we're like, oh, this is the game people are playing? Well, that's what we're going to do. So we were doing it. So we're like, we're gonna do this. So then 2 seconds later, someone knocks on the door. I'm like, hurry up, fill the bucket with water. So someone runs in the bathroom, fills the bucket. Karen gets the bucket. I open the door. She throws the bucket of water, and it was one of the nuns. And she wasn't in her nun garb. She was just dressed like regular clothing. And
she was in a swimsuit?
So why would you say that? Why did I forget her name? And she looked like a wet rat, like this woman. And I slammed the door, and then I went into the closet right next to the door and peed in my pants. Oh, I never laughed so hard in my entire life. It was the best. And that's all I got.
Whoa. Is it my turn? Is it
No, let's hear more about Rickety Rackety, the next coach you had.
Well, so it's kind of funny because number 1 is going to be, I think,
Slippity-slappity?
Top memories from high school. Meeting, of course, who to this day is my best friend, Bryant Doobie. Scooby-Dooby. So, yeah, meeting Bryant Doobie, still close friends today, godfather of our children, along with his wife, who's the godmother. After we record this, we're going to visit with them. Yep. So, interesting, because Bryant was a senior when I was a freshman, and so Stan didn't like him. Yep. He thought it was weird that a senior wanted to hang out with a freshman, so he thought there was something strange going on there.
But Stan also didn't like you listening to Striker.
Well, it was Striper.
Striper.
Because Striper was a Christian band. Actually, so this is funny.
That's right. It's funny.
So Striper was a Christian
Stan
band,
wasn't a good
and there was an album they had that was called "To Hell with the Devil." And he saw devil written on the album, and he was like, I don't want you listening to that. And I heard, no, Stan, they're saying to hell with the devil. They're a Christian rock band.
I love that.
Anyhow, a sidebar there. To this day, just one of my best friends, just all around good person. I remember actually having to explain to Stan, and Stan was good. Like, if you explain something and blah, 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 and okay, if you make sense, all right, good. And I'd be like, no, he's fine, like blah, 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 and this and that. And yeah, so we've been friends for a long time. And it's funny because he's actually friends with my dad, as well. And so anyway,
yeah.
that was one of the great things coming out of that. Aside from all the other friends that I had, in the way that we still hang out with here today. Some other things that I remember, one in particular was English class. I think either my junior or senior year, probably senior year. And I was in this class with Paul Sarkis. And Paul Sarkis and I were just idiots in terms of like the things that we would do. And I can't remember the English teacher's name, if anybody knows or remembers the shenanigans we used to pull in this class. But there would be times we'd be in this class, you know how teachers would have you read aloud. And
was his name Bob Shabab?
No, okay. It was not Bob Shabab.
Sorry.
We were reading Fiddler on the Roof, maybe, aloud in class, and I was reading it like Tommy Flanagan from Saturday Night Live, and it was, remember him? Like, yeah, that's the ticket, see? Yeah. And so I was reading the whole thing like that, and we were trying not to laugh during that whole thing, and she was like, something like that maybe was her name. Then there were times where we would have books that were, lent from the school that we would be reading for a particular part of the class, and then we would have to bring those books back to the library in the school, and, she'd be like, oh, does anybody want to bring the books? And me and Paul would jump up immediately and be like, we'll bring them! And then we'd put, like, one book on the cart and then run out of the room with the one book, and she'd be like, get back here and put more book. I'm like, no, there's too many books! And we would just run down the hallway. So we'd have to keep going back and forth in this. We just drove this woman crazy. And so we, like I said, idiots, but lots of fun. And then another thing that we used to do that was big in our school, and I don't know if you had anything like this, but we used to do a Model UN. That was a big deal. And I was never like involved in the political aspect of it, other than I was like on security for the model event, Model UN. But I remember in particular... Did
you wear your wrestling uniform?
Yes, I wore a singlet, and I just would take down everybody that came into the room that wasn't supposed to be there.
That's what I needed to hear.
Go ahead. So the headgear was a little weird. And I remember they would so we would have all of the countries in the Model UN, and we'd be in the auditorium, and they would do the national anthems for all of the different countries, and... I remember sitting next to Paul, again, looking for any excuse to be idiots, and Saudi Arabia, the national anthem for Saudi Arabia came on, and there were no words to their national anthem. It was just music that they were playing, and I looked at Paul and I was like, they don't have words? So I was like, well, we got to make some words. So we were like, Saudi Arabia to the thing, and I don't think there were any other words other than that, but we got a big kick out of that at the time.
Idiots.
So exactly. And so those are my three things in terms of like top memories, of course, aside from romantic relationships and those types of things, but those were some things that came to mind. So those were our fun memories. Was there a worst memory that you have from high school?
Oh, tons.
Well, why don't you share 1, 2, maybe, I don't know. You
There were many, many times, sometimes willingly, but for the most part, I didn't know when it was coming. People would like to, it was real that you got shoved into a locker. That happened a few times. The worst was when a couple of girls threw me into one of those huge gray garbage cans that were like in the lunchroom, and I couldn't get out. And then I was late for class, and I got in trouble. And I tried to explain, like, someone put me in the garbage can, and they didn't believe me. I wonder why. Then there was that little, so I talk about sophomore year. It was a little blip where I never cut school. In fact, I have my award here that says Perfect Attendance Award. Marisa Bernardo.
Let me see that.
Sophomore year.
Wow, maybe we'll have to snap a shot of that and show that on the
perfect.
On the
what
Facebook.
Year was that?
January 1990.
Wow.
Perfect Attendance Award.
Yep. Like I said, I used to like going to
school.
Not
just regular attendance, but also punctuality.
Yep.
Very impressive.
My mother was very, very good at making sure I got there on time and away from her. So that was good. Yeah, I never cut school. That was not a thing that I did. I was afraid of getting in trouble. And if I didn't want to go to school, I would just tell my mother.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, stay home. So one year, a bunch of my friends cut school. and me and a couple of the girls didn't. And they went to Manhattan Beach, and they were walking along, getting ready to like go into the beach. And one of the girls' fathers drove by and saw his kid and started screaming and put them all in his truck, drove them all back to school. They all got in trouble. And I don't know how it happened, but I guess like they called my mom thinking that I was with them. And then they called me on the loudspeaker and they were like, "Oh, you're here?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been here the whole time." And so then someone saw that I was called down to the office. So then they just assumed that I ratted them out. And I didn't say anything to anybody. And then I had to call my mom to let her know that I didn't cut school because they had told her that I also cut class. Mm-hmm. And so then for pretty much that entire semester, no one talked to me. And people wrote mean things on my desk and on the blackboard and on my locker. And I had people threaten me every day after school. Like the seniors hated me. And then Ruth Ann's brother, Adam, a few times would meet me and walk me home. I remember like one rainy day, he came with the umbrella and he walked me home. And it was just terrible. But then I had a group of people that actually told me to come sit with them. And then I made new friends, which was great. And so that was good. And then senior year, I became friends with everybody again and forgave everybody because that's what I do. And then I remember one really bad moment was when a classmate of ours, Kim Fox, died. And it was like the first time like someone our age passed away.
Yeah.
And she like died in her sleep. She had asthma or something. And she just died in her sleep. And so everybody was like, whoa. Like I remember that being like terrible.
Yeah.
And I was friends with her because like I was friends with everybody. But, you know, seeing her like best friends at the wake was horrible. So I'm sure there were other things that weren't great, but those are the ones I remember the most.
So I don't really have like bad memories of high school. Like there weren't like, again, you know, my whole like things happen the way they're supposed to happen and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sure there were like moments that like, ugh, you know. But one thing I do remember that I think was just a really crappy thing that I believe it was probably my senior year, junior year, one of those two maybe. But there was a group of kids that were like jumping students and like beating them up and stealing their hats.
Yeah.
And back in the day, hats were a big thing, right? Like everybody had a baseball cap on or something like that. And so, of course, obviously, like a lot of us who played sports with the jocks, like we had the thing. But like, yeah, people were getting jumped, and some of my friends and other people were getting jumped, and it was just like, ugh, like, right? Like, really? Yeah. Like that's happening?
Well, that's why my parents didn't want me to go to public school, because apparently that was like a big thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so interesting, right? So like, let's move on to question 3 here, because it's the question that we came up with here is like, what do you worry about for your kids in high school that you didn't have to worry about? And for me, you know, just like that situation, I guess I get very upset. And I think maybe this is where Emily gets it, where when something is not right, like I'm very like, that's not right.
When there's an injustice.
Yes, when there is an injustice that needs to be righted. I'm very much, you know, I'm going to stand up for people and I'm going to, you know, do that type of thing. And that's why I got so upset, because I saw some of my friends, you know, having been part of that situation. But the thing today that I worry about for the girls is just the fact that there's these gun situations and lockdowns, and like that's something that is part of their normal
I know, and they shouldn't have to worry about something like that. That's awful.
It hurts me a lot.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right. I mean, I just said being bullied online, because being bullied like when I was in high school at that time was pretty awful. Had there been the internet, it would have been 1,000 times worse than it actually was. And, you know, it's like the equivalent of like what happened back then is I've told people this story where my mom called one of the moms, because I came home, I was like distraught. I was sick to my stomach. And my mom called one of the moms, and had there been an internet and my mother was on it, she would have said these things online, which probably would have landed her in jail. But she told one of the moms exactly like this: if you don't tell your kid to stop, I'm gonna come to your house, I'm gonna rip your head off, and I'm gonna pull your heart out through your throat. And I remember thinking, well, that's it. Now I'm done. Like, I'm done. She just threatened. That's like verbatim what she said.
Oh,
She
I
was,
believe it.
Yep.
I believe it.
Probably,
I know your mother, yes.
Yes, yes. So, like, if that was today, you know, like what happens with the kids, just, you know, some of the stuff. I mean, working with, like, especially the Lawrence High School kids, like, they've had some issues with online stuff that I've had to take class time and kind of have a discussion with them about it. Like, the online stuff is just awful. But worrying about them every day that they're going to come back home is another real reality I don't like to think about.
Surprise question time.
Okay.
What do you got for me?
What was your senior year high school song?
Oh.
Did you have one?
Sure. Probably. I don't remember. I have no idea. I don't remember at all. I do remember in our senior yearbook, though, I did put in a Billy Joel quote as my quote.
Of course you did.
That was the whole... what?
These are the best years.
No, life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. I'm afraid it's time for goodbye again.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Were you not... Well, extra credit question.
Oh, okay. Since I nailed that first one.
You did.
Yes.
Did you get nominated for something like senior year? Like voted most blah, blah, blah?
I was most charming.
Of course you were.
In high school, yeah. And I was a prince at the prom.
Of course you were. Good Lord. Good, sweet Jesus, take the wheel.
So my question for you, though.
I was voted most likely to jump out of a window.
Was that a real thing?
Yes.
Because I believe it.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember that time you did jump out of a window?
I did.
It was on the first floor.
Yes.
It was kind of silly, but...
When did I jump out of a window? I just said yes, and I was like, no. And then we also had senior jerseys, and the back of my jersey said, because I asked everybody to give me my nickname, and so mine was Mental Midget.
Mental Midget.
Midget's not a nice word, but 30-something years ago, it was fine, and that's what my friends thought of me. Anyway, what's the question?
My question for you, you ready for this doozy? What do you think would have happened if we met in high school?
Oh, Jesus. That's actually a really good question. Well, I don't think I would have liked you.
No, I don't think I would have liked you.
No, we would not have gotten along at all. Nope.
Audience question time. Our first question here comes from Kevin. And Kevin says, with cameras everywhere now versus almost none when we were in high school, do you feel that kids today are immune to cameras? And how have your parenting styles changed over the years due to technology? So kind of twofold there. Do you think? So let's take this part by part. Do you feel like kids are immune to cameras now?
Yes. Well, because they're so stupid. I mean, like, I did stupid things too when I was a kid. And like I said, it's on a VHS tape. So, I mean, that's not getting anywhere. But for the most part, we didn't want to record any of the dumb things that we used to do because we knew that that would get us in trouble. Mm-hmm. But kids do this stuff all the time. And they film themselves, like... Yeah. Doing the dumbest crap, like all these challenges that they do, dumb. And then they record it and then they get in trouble. And it's ridiculous. So I think it's bad now because they look for that attention.
You know, so it's right. So on that note, I feel like there's more pressure to seem okay because you're seeing a snapshot of things. You're not seeing the true story.
Yeah. Also. Yeah.
But I also think there's another side with the camera thing that I think there is, you know, the more I think of it, I mean, it's amazing with some of these devices and the technology that they have, that it does open up this whole other world of creativity.
Yep.
On the good side, right? There's definitely not without the negative things.
The TikTok stuff is fun.
A lot of the things that they do, I'm just like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I also think, though, at least from what I can see from our girls and the people that they hang around with, is I also feel that they're also more open and accepting of other people and other like lifestyles in a way I don't think back 31 years ago people were then. You know what I mean? People back then were more closed-minded and whatever. Although, again, this is just a small slice of what we're seeing. I think those people do still exist, but I'm glad that at least from what I can see and the the girls have chosen to hang around with, that they are more open and accepting, and it's not like a big deal.
Yes, I agree with that.
Jake has a question for us. How would your younger self like high school in this day and age? What do you think would be better, and what would totally suck?
Yeah, so I don't think I would not enjoy high school now. If I was in high school, and I would not like it. There's, yeah, I don't think I would like it.
See, I think I'd be okay with it. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't. Again, this is where I have trouble being like, well, I don't know. Like, you know, I think I would be okay with it, and I don't think it would be. I don't necessarily think anything would be better. I just think everything would be different.
Right. And I feel like if it was the personality that I had in high school and I would have that now, I would definitely not like it because it would not be tolerated the way it was when I was younger. And then I just feel like, you know, I watch the kids walk out when I go to pick up the girls, and it's just like, I don't know. They all look miserable and they all look tired. And none of them have coats on.
Well, that's an age-old problem going on for centuries.
God.
And in terms of what would totally suck, a couple of things come to mind. I think, obviously, let's recall that whole gun situation.
Yes.
That it has to be part of the vernacular of what's going on.
Yeah.
That would totally suck.
Yeah.
And then just recalling the technology bit, just on a couple of levels, having evidence of the stupidity.
Yep.
Could be fun on one level. But then some things you're like, oh, I don't want any evidence of that having
right,
happened.
and that's the thing with high school
yeah.
is that those a bunch of kids don't care, and one picture, one video gets out,
yeah,
and then that like spreads like syphilis
well,
everywhere.
Yeah, I don't like.
I could have said wildfire.
You almost there's very little room for a kid in these times where you're learning and figuring things out, and you know what, making mistakes.
Right.
There's not a lot of room for mistakes to be
right.
lessons to learn from versus things that are used against you. Does that make sense?
Right. I agree.
Bill asks, what are your best, funniest moments in high school where you got in a ton of trouble? However, looking back on it now, it was funny and appropriate to share with your children as a funny story and a learning moment.
Yeah, I have way too many. I mean, they know I've told them all my shenanigans. Can I read some of my discipline notices I have?
Please do that.
Okay. This is sophomore year. I got a disrupting class, and the notes at the bottom. Dear parents, Marisa has detention for this poor behavior. Detention Wednesday, January 17th. This is 1990. I got 4 demerits. Then on 3/13/92, Marisa had been arguing and came into the classroom. She said something to someone and then used foul language. I looked at her and said, "Excuse me." She turned away and used foul language again. I said, "We do not speak that way in my classroom." She later apologized. See, I wasn't so bad. And Sister Barbara, being the awesome person she was, she wrote, "Marisa, watch what you say. You should be commended for apologizing." That's why Sister Barbara was the best. Yep. I only got 2 demerits for using foul language. Okay. And then Marisa does no work in math. Her behavior.
Now we know where.
Yep. Her behavior and grades go hand in hand. Help is needed. There was one, I don't know where it is. I feel like I should have put it in a frame, but there's definitely one. This was from 1990. There's definitely one that says that I was making animal noises in the back of the room.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And it actually says it like on the thing. I used to try to escape school every day. I would just leave the building and see how long I could stay outside before someone noticed that I wasn't there. And then Sister Barbara caught on to it, and then she like figured out my escape route, and then she finally caught me, and she was waiting there for me. And that was the most trouble I got into because I wasn't supposed to leave school. I also used to steal the supplies in the art room. I don't know why I mentioned that. I just felt guilty.
I'm like, is there anything else you'd like
to... No, I'm sure there were other things.
We got a time thing going on
go.
here. So the one I wrote, so again, I wasn't like a big troublemaker or anything like that. Occasional stuff would happen. But one of the things that we did, and led by me typically, like I was typically the one that, like, you know, oh, Dave isn't gonna blah blah blah, but I was always the one like, oh, yep, we should do this thing. Yes. That would be the thing that would, you know, could get us into trouble. But we were, and this was more of a creative exercise than what it sounds like. We figured out how to make fake IDs using like contact paper and like making a copy of like numbers and then pulling that off and then putting it over, like use like a pencil. And so I was excited creatively by the fact that I could take an ID and make it look like a different year and actually like, hey, that looks pretty good. and so this is how, like, I didn't think I was doing anything that would get me in trouble. Is that, like, I was literally doing it like on the kitchen table. Did
you get caught?
Yeah, because I was doing it on the kitchen table. Going like,
tell me Stan saw you.
Oh yeah, Stan. Like my dad had come up. Bryant's dad came over because we were like, okay, we won't do that. We were just like, we were like, no, like, look, I could do this. Like I would never use a fake ID. I don't think I ever used a fake ID.
Oh, you didn't go to the Clada?
No. Well, I didn't need a fake ID to go to the Clada. Apparently.
No one needs a fake ID.
but yeah, so that was one of the things that we did. So I guess the learning moment there is don't make fake IDs
in your kitchen where people can see you.
Because
just don't make fake IDs is what I was going to say.
Anyway, Tina asks, is there something about high school you would do differently based on the knowledge you've gained as an adult?
I wrote, Entenmann's banana crunch cake doesn't equal love.
Aww, that sounds like a really emotional moment that you need to unpack for us.
It was very Monica-ish. Yeah, I would have put the fork down. I ate my emotions during high school, really. I would have found something better a better outlet, I think, rather than just eating all the time. I ate a lot. And the girls eat a lot, but they are active where I was not. So that was a problem. But what about you?
I always struggle with these. And so I wrote, I'm good. I think, I don't know if I would have done anything differently. I think I'm good with the way things turned out. Yeah. You know? All right. Yeah, we did it.
Yeah, we did it.
That's our show. Episode 4. High school.
3 hours later.
High school. Thank you for joining us. Next time, we'll be talking about college, the college years, which I think we'll have some fun stories to share there because that was an interesting period of time. Please do remember, if you'd like to send in questions, to join our email list. There will be a link to that in the show notes. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to podcasts so you get the new episodes as they are released. And please, and thank you, leave a review. Let us know what you think of the show. The reviews and ratings help us get found by other people that are not people that we know immediately. So please do share the podcast if you enjoy it with your friends as well. We'd love to have new people listening to that. And Reese, thank you again for your candid storytelling.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's my pleasure. All
right, friends, thanks for joining us. And remember, life is a group project. Be kind to each other.
Bye.
We got the right stuff.